Hi, I'm Gabe.
Hi, I'm Vashitta.
I'm Kelley, and I get to talk first this time.
Yay!
It's been so long since I got to be annoying on this podcast. So I'm talking about Richard Cordray and Betty Sutton and the delightful combo that is them. Yay!
And how you've been hustling
Oh, have I?
everywhere.
We are so proud.
I made the I tweeted, it'd be fun to take a selfie every day. I have to wear a shirt for work, like a work shirt, and then I realized that people would never think that I changed clothes.
It totally looks that way on our Instagram.
It really does.
It really does.
That's a good thing. That means that stuff is getting done.
That means I need to do laundry. Yeah. So Monday, was it Monday?
Yes, Monday.
I don't know what day it is. Monday, I went down. I was going to say up. I went down to Marietta, Ohio, for the gubernatorial debate between Richard Cordray and Mike DeWine, and it was great. Planned Parenthood planned a denied DeWine rally outside of the debate location. So there was probably 15, 20 of us with like pro-choice signs supporting Rich Cordray and Betty Sutton, and then we all hung around and watched the debate, and it was a good time. Our volunteers got to meet Betty Sutton and Rich Cordray, get some photos with them. I'm very proud of the sign I made.
I am too, especially being a Jeopardy fan. Do you want to tell them what it said?
It said, "Ohio is in jeopardy, and we need a champion," which is only funny if you know that Richard Cordray was a 5-time Jeopardy champion.
Exactly. So it's very fitting.
And he apparently was also delighted by this sign, which just tickles me.
Oh yeah, Cordray has been, this is a part of his actual, his campaign messaging, his Jeopardy experience. So.
It was great though, because he said, "No one's put it quite that succinctly. Well done."
Yeah, I was like, I would agree.
I was like, yeah.
No other campaign or organization has thought of something that creative. So kudos to you, Kelley.
Yeah. We're gonna make you and Cordray the cover photo for this podcast episode. It's an epic sign.
She's in hard. So yeah, I got to meet Richard Cordray and Betty Sutton, and everyone on this Democratic ticket is very tall.
Really, especially Rob Richardson.
Yeah. I mean Kathleen Clyde.
Yeah,
they are. They're just all like at least ahead. They're all ahead above me. It's alarming. Aftab Purval in Cincinnati is also very tall. Like I'm just like, is there a height requirement in Ohio, and why is it over 6 feet?
It just seems that way.
Yeah. So I went to Marietta on Monday, and then the Ohio Democratic Party had like a bus tour launch on Tuesday. So it looked like I stayed up all night, just really excited about electoral work and hitting the ground for November because I'm wearing the same clothes. But it was a good time, and I'm proud of my sign, and I got my picture. So Nerds for Cordray says I'm cool.
Yes.
Well, Nerds for Cordray loved that. Did you see Francis Strickland had a Nerds for Cordray t-shirt?
Oh, I didn't know that was Francis Strickland.
That's Francis Strickland.
I saw the shirt. I was like,
lady with the Nerds for Cordray t-shirt.
She's a cool lady.
She is.
Oh, she had an event this morning, and then you never got back to me on the time.
Oh, that is true. We did.
I don't know when was it, Gabe?
I don't know. I just saw the tweet.
Oh.
So the bus tour though yesterday morning was really great. They had all of the statewide candidates out there,
and Joyce Beatty,
who's just like the most glamorous member of Congress ever,
and also my future House Rep Herschel Craig with that glorious mustache.
Yes.
So I was just like, I get to see everybody I like. This is exciting.
His mustache was epic.
He's a very adorable man.
So you mean his mustache was there, but he was also there in attendance?
Mm-hmm. Okay. He was attached to the mustache.
Correct.
He leads with the mustache.
Yeah. No, it was a really great event. Cordray spoke about the importance of protecting women's rights. It wasn't a very long event, so it's not like he was dwelling on the topic singularly. Right. But what we've seen from him in debates.
Absolutely.
He's so much better than DeWine. I mean, I know I'm biased because I like him as a candidate and we have endorsed him, but genuinely, he's an intelligent man.
Yeah.
And very well spoken. And even if he's nervous, he knows what he's talking about.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And DeWine just kind of
is a goblin.
DeWine is not 6 feet tall.
Oh, goodness. Did you see how people got mad at Nan Whaley during the first debate when she said she made a comment about the height? Well, I don't think it was about the height. She just said,
I missed that.
How did she put it? she said, "Look at the difference here," or something. They were standing next to each other, and basically all I got out of it was, "Who's the bigger man?" I mean,
literally and figuratively.
Yes. But yeah, I'm like, really lighten up, people. Like, this man has done way worse to the state of Ohio.
I mean, we just get to make fun of him because he's short, but there's plenty of legitimate reasons to also make fun of him.
Exactly.
Yeah, he has short-sighted policies.
Thank you.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, Cordray in the first debate gave a terrific rock star answer.
Yes.
Which was about the Kavanaugh hearing. We'll discuss that here in a minute.
And his opening statements have been fire. Like, he comes out swinging, and
yes,
I think people are enjoying that because Cordray's always been the kind of
he's a dork.
Shy, dork. He doesn't really hit hard, but he's hitting hard now,
right?
And I love it. So
I'm fine with having a dorky governor.
I am absolutely fine with that.
Compared to what we see from the White House, it's like, please, can we have
give me the nerds,
somebody who knows what they're doing.
Responsibility.
I need an adult in the governor's house.
Not somebody just screaming in anger.
Oh, goodness.
It's horrible. So, yeah, I'm really happy. I think everybody in the offices with what we're seeing out of the Cordray Sutton campaign. Betty Sutton led off after Joyce Beatty, then Betty Sutton stepped up and spoke. She's really proving to be a great asset to this ticket.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing a lot more, engaged material out of her than John Husted, who is Mike DeWine's.
I haven't seen anything from Husted.
Well, it's because
except negative ads or negative comments.
Negative ads, and then he's so far embroiled in the whole ECOT thing, he's got more negatives on himself than he does positives.
I don't know how how can you justify running for lieutenant governor while embroiled in the ECOT scandal? That's just...
This is Ohio.
There's that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he accepted so many donations from ECOT supporters and really greased the skids. John Husted's farther in the ECOT scandal than Mike DeWine is.
Yeah, Mike
but
DeWine
the combo
tried to say
is horrible for the state.
Tried to say that Rich Cordray never gave back the money that he supposedly got, and Cordray's like, no, let me address this from my perspective. And I just love that each and every time that they come at him with something like the rape test kits, Cordray comes back with, no, that's not how that went. So it's like they're trying to take all these negatives and throw it against him when in all actuality, it's Mike DeWine's team and those who were in office.
Yeah, he's basically just talking crap about himself when Mike DeWine comes out swinging against Cordray. It's like, you didn't do this. Well, neither did you, because you had a lot more time than I did. There
for 7, 8 years, and I was there for 5 months when the rape kits came in.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've got the video of Cordray's response during the debate on the rape kits, explaining exactly what the process was under his office to process those, what the timeline was, how fast they were able to move those, compared to DeWine's 7-year-long travesty of not having this be taken care of yet.
Exactly.
So... really strong contrasts about abortion rights, about rape kit testing. The fact that nobody on the Democratic ticket's embroiled in the ECOT scandal.
Exactly.
There was one of the Columbus Dispatch reporters, I think it was Jim Siegel, who was tweeting something to illustrate, Republicans are trying to say, well, Democrats took ECOT money too. It's like literally a comparison of $500 to $23 million.
That's insane.
Yeah. It's an enormous amount of money that's been funneled into Republican coffers.
That's crazy.
To support, what became $1 billion program that, was set up to defraud Ohio taxpayers.
$189 million from taxpayers. And speaking of the Dispatch, did we talk about the good news?
Oh yeah, the Dispatch endorsed Cordray.
Yay!
Yeah, go for it.
This is the second Democrat they've endorsed in how long? I don't even know.
They endorsed Strickland the first time around.
Okay.
But before then, it's been literally decades.
Yeah.
So
it speaks volumes.
Yeah, the Dispatch endorsed Rich Cordray, mentioning, amongst many other issues, the fact that Mike DeWine is just really clearly too extreme on abortion policies.
Absolutely.
So, this I think is a really terrific sign that a conservative paper like the Dispatch, they admit in their own column, hey, we're a conservative paper. This is a Republican leaning newspaper.
That's weird.
And here they're rejecting, DeWine, who's been in politics for
42 years.
42 years.
That's as long as Jamie's been alive.
And so now the Dispatch is like, okay, enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
We need
His
somebody new.
Policies are egregious, to say the least. So I think everyone should check out the article that the Dispatch has, and also vote for Cordray.
I really like him, and I'm not just saying that because I have to. Because I don't actually have to.
Link in the show notes. Everybody should read it.
Yes.
A great endorsement. I expect there to be others from other newspapers here in Columbus. Obviously, we pay a lot of attention to the Dispatch.
Yeah.
Mike DeWine is just unfit to lead Ohio.
Yeah. At this point, he's just unfit to be in office, period. So,
right.
Put him out to pasture.
So that's kind of the big news in state government.
Yes, the great
positive news.
Positive news.
Dun dun dun. So
then there's all the rest.
What else is in the news?
So when our previous podcast or most recent podcast was recorded,
I don't even know what it was about.
Kelley and I had just discussed. It was right after the first DeWine Cordray debate.
Okay.
And Kelley Copeland and I talked about Cordray's response in that debate, which was terrific, a nice pro-choice, pro-women's rights, promoted the importance of working towards equal pay.
And Mike DeWine was like, yes, I will sign a 6-week ban.
And Mike DeWine
was being Mike DeWine.
Yeah, blatantly pledged to sign a 6-week ban. But the question that came out was the original question from Dayton Daily News reporter Laura Bischoff was, now there's this scandal of the Supreme Court nominee and Brett Kavanaugh. And so we had just then learned about Kavanaugh's true self.
Yes.
And so now since then we've heard from her. What are your thoughts on Dr. Christine Blasey Ford's testimony?
Emotional. It was extremely emotional.
But for you, not on her behalf, she was very even-keeled and reasonable and like
right.
So she was very poised the whole time that she spoke, unlike Kavanaugh, and she remained very calm, and she told her side of the story. But I think for a lot of women and other people out there, it was emotional to see her sometimes emotional, and just to know that what she went through, and for them to be dismissing it like it was nothing. So that was my thoughts. But also Kavanaugh was extremely out of order. He pretty much screamed, yelled. He acted like my 5-year-old.
So.
I like beer. I still like beer.
Right.
This is a job interview
for the Supreme Court.
Right. Like I don't know how else to
have
explain that.
I mean, it's a textbook response of abusers. Like once they've been called out, is to get emotional, to get act out, to just
like a toddler who got caught doing something.
be a big baby.
Right. It's almost unfair to babies.
Yeah, I know, right?
My son is more of an adult than Kavanaugh.
At least they have a reason. They're their age, they're young, but
right.
But this very
man baby.
It was just incredibly shocking.
Yes.
I think
shocking, or is it just like disappointing but not surprising?
Oh, I think it crossed the line into shock.
I think a lot of people were shocked.
Yeah, I think he's not qualified for the Supreme Court, not based on. Yes, beyond the allegations and all that.
He's not fit for like the allegations. He's not fit because of what he has done before, but like specifically, he's not fit because of his demeanor.
And also, they said he's never even
he's a belligerent drunk.
Does he even have a law degree? I was looking at something online yesterday when they were saying something about him.
He's a judge.
Well, they said that he had never tried a certain type of court or something. I don't know. I'll have to look at it again, but they were like, he barely has the experience that he needs to be on the Supreme Court. And somebody posed the question, does he even have a law degree? And I'm like, well, I hope so. But
I feel like he almost certainly has a law degree at least.
Yes.
But I mean, it doesn't mean he got good grades. George W. Bush got C's, so it's not like.
His career and education are those partners are intact. But it's just incredibly shocking that someone who is a judge would be such a terrible, terrible witness. All he had to do was sit there and just explain himself. And to be screaming at Dianne Feinstein, to be directly insulting Amy Klobuchar, who started off her questions explaining that her own father was a recovering alcoholic.
Absolutely.
And that she understood alcohol abuse.
Absolutely.
And for him to be screaming questions about how much she gets drunk.
Exactly.
Where in the hell does this guy get off treating U.S. senators like that? In a job interview.
Exactly.
He's the pinnacle of white male entitlement.
Absolutely. And if he behaves like that on TV, can you just imagine how he behaves
after a few beers?
Right, exactly. When nobody's watching, or just, I couldn't imagine. So
right. The questions that have been coming out not only from Dr. Ford, but from multiple other victims who have made really credible claims of everything, to him exposing himself to actual cases of rape.
Why do people even do that? Ew.
You mean exposing themselves?
Yes.
Wow.
I mean,
have you guys looked into
neither me nor Kelley have an explanation for that one? So
have you guys looked into his accomplice, Mark Judge? He used to have a weird YouTube channel that has been since been deleted, of young-looking girls just passing out. It's super weird.
Right. I mean, everything about this smacks of just kind of the bad guy in every sort of John Hughes, early 80s Revenge of the Nerds sort of movie. Kavanaugh was the bad guy.
And everyone from most of the Republicans still just want to push him right through.
I'm most disappointed in Lindsey Graham because he is the one.
Are you?
Yes, because I have the most experience. As a former constituent of his, I'm just like,
oh, gotcha. Yeah,
what the hell,
I
man?
just expected.
Right.
I mean, I'm disappointed but not surprised. And he was booed today, and just responds with, "Oh, boo yourself," which is such a Southern man's response.
Right. Lindsey Graham has always been kind of a tough one to read.
I think he's not unlike John McCain in that sense. He's gonna do some things because it makes him look more moderate, but he's absolutely not a moderate.
Yeah.
He's a very right-wing Republican of yesteryear, and I guess more moderate of today's Republicans.
I don't think McCain would be proud of him this week.
I
don't. Lindsey Graham, when we were putting together material for the 2016 GOP
he was
primary,
a presidential candidate.
He was a presidential candidate,
yes.
And the National NARAL office had they had a little website, and you could look up every single candidate and all of their entire anti-choice record, every vote, every bill signed, everything. And so what I realized, because I was looking at John Kasich's material, is that he had this massive list of anti-choice votes and bills signed and all of that was one of the longest. And we put together a press release and said, listen, John Kasich's got the absolute worst anti-choice record of any nominee on that stage.
It's probably because he has had the most opportunities.
But we couldn't put that out there until Lindsey Graham dropped out.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. While Lindsey Graham was in the race, he had the worst record.
Wow.
Where can I move next? Because I don't have a winning record.
Not yet.
I can't move yet.
For 2 now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's had this horrible record in terms of reproductive rights. He's always been a loudmouth. There was a moment there when he was critical to Donald Trump And
now he's an
in
ass
that
kisser.
sort of McCain,
Yeah,
stance of like, hey, we're the Senate and we need to stand up to the president because we're not taking orders from him. And there was like 5 minutes where Lindsey Graham was in that camp.
Literally.
And he's done a 180 on that. And during Saturday Night Live this week, they really implied, I think, directly stated, Kate McKinnon was doing the impression of him that he's auditioning for the cabinet. If Jeff Sessions does not come back after the midterms as Attorney General, I think Lindsey Graham wants that position.
Probably.
He was screaming about Kavanaugh, talking about Lindsey Graham, as a lawyer, I've done this and whatever. I think that was his audition. You
went to the University of South Carolina School of Law. It is not that good.
Trump doesn't have
Kelley.
standards about actual academics.
He does not.
I think this is his audition for Attorney General.
Ugh.
Sickening. Well, only time will tell, but I don't doubt that for a second.
South Carolina politicians are just the weirdest. I mean, I've read an article from the Post and Courier, which is Charleston's newspaper, about Nikki Haley's like potential future run for president, and I was just like, no.
She's really jeopardized herself with, back to the Jeopardy thing, but with her support for Trump's foreign policy. She's made too many statements that have everybody in the international community just scratching their heads.
The UN literally laughed at the president of the United States.
And then she backed him up the next day.
I thought that was a glorious moment.
I'm disappointed because she is also like a woman of color and like has like Indian like background and like an international background, and I don't
I thought it was a glorious moment when Trump got laughed at.
Sorry, yeah.
If there was any type of
okay, no, I'm still just
confusion.
I'm still just disappointed in Nikki Haley, both as a woman and as a South Carolinian.
Right. Yeah.
She also went to Clemson, so she's unforgivable anyway.
Well, there's a problem. So Trump, he made the comments to the UN saying that his administration's done more and accomplished more than any other presidential administration in history.
And the UN
even
laughed at him.
Literally, you can't hear him say that without laughing.
I am mortified as an American.
And he said, that's not the response I was expecting, but
he's like, haha, they think I said a joke. Haha. I don't understand what goes through that man's head.
He's a narcissist, so
yeah.
Yeah, it's just self-love.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish I could have that much self-love.
No one would like you if you did.
That's true.
Trump apparently thinks he's better than George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, FDR, JFK.
Goes down the list.
Yeah.
He doesn't realize he's the worst. Mm-hmm. One of the worst.
Nope, he thinks that everybody who says that is wrong.
Him and Richard Nixon are bros.
He had a so the UN thing was earlier in the past week or so. Yesterday, he had two big points come out. First being the New York Times has uncovered tons of information about his father's business practices.
Okay, but like, where was this information 2 years ago?
Right?
Who was not doing their job? And I know the answer is most people, but like.
Well, but Hillary had an email server.
Right, but her emails.
Yeah.
This is just making me more mad than when I started this podcast.
That's your job. So Fred Trump apparently ran his businesses with family in mind, hiding money in trusts under his children's name.
Yeah, he was a millionaire when he was like 8. Donald Trump. It's crazy.
And, Trump's big line that people can quote was he claims that the only thing he ever got from his father was a loan of $1 million. That's
so not true.
And the New York Times, if you adjust it for inflation and, 2018 values, it would be over $400 million he got from his dad.
And the building he had, I think he was like, however, I think half of that was his as well, something like that.
That is so many dollars.
Yes, more than a loan of $1 million.
Yes.
He sort of makes and the loan of $1 million, everyone was like, where can I get this loan of $1 million?
Right, exactly.
Please?
Again.
That would be a huge boost. And
right.
I would love $1 million.
Well, I would love the $400 million that he apparently got from his dad.
I will be happy with one.
Right. 500,000 something.
So that came out from the New York Times, and then just about the same time yesterday, he also gave statements to the press, just directly mocking Christine Blasey Ford, really questioning her entire testimony, being very rude about it.
Absolutely.
Not only not believing her, which is bad, but being just a Trump-like jerk,
right,
about it too. Susan Collins was asked about it in the halls of the Senate today and said, listen, the president's statements, they were not appropriate.
At least she's aware of that.
But
right?
we need her vote, and she needs to vote no.
I'm just
speaking of votes. What do you guys think about Senator Flake?
You mean other than he lives up to his name?
Yeah.
I want to play poker with him because he's got this face that just totally looks like anything he feels guilty about, he would give away.
Oh, I just got the presidential alert.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Me too.
It was Jeff Flake who, who said, listen, I need to hear from the FBI before I can, before I can move forward on this.
Correct.
The thing that really takes me off then is he voted yes in the committee vote. I'm like, hold on. If you need more time and you need an FBI investigation, then don't send this to the floor and say it's all ready to go. That's not how this works.
No, no, it's like he's trying to please both parties or both, to play both sides of the fence. But I do applaud the two women who pretty much held him like, in the elevator and it was like, hey, you're going to listen to my story. And, he didn't have anywhere to go. And so, by listening, it's like, do you see the people who have been harmed by sexual assault and what that means to them? You just can't brush that off.
Do you think this will have any ramifications for voters this fall? I mean, either way, really.
I do. Yeah. I think this, actually seeing people holding members of Congress accountable.
Yes.
And screaming at them in an elevator if need be. And apparently it need be. And then seeing him go to the floor of this committee and hold up a committee vote and, sit there looking like he's going to throw up in his own lap. And then say, hold on, wait a minute. We need more time to look at this. I don't think anybody...
knew?
Yeah.
So you're talking about members of Congress, but I mean specifically voters on the ground, voters in Ohio. I mean, we're seeing letters to the editor in Cincinnati of, I don't know. I feel like these people are very old, saying that what's happening.
Well, we knew that letters to the editor, but go on.
Hey, we had a 17-year-old write a letter to the editor. Okay. Thank you.
I take it back. Go ahead.
But just these older voters who are like, that's just how things. Any girl has had unwanted sexual content. There's no reason to have Kavanaugh not confirmed. And I don't.
Yeah, I've had a lot of men respond to things that I've said on social media, and I think they are offended because in their mind it happened so long ago. Oh, boys will be boys is what they said. But when the boys are African American, like Trayvon Martin, or someone who's been shot
Tamir
and killed
Rice.
for exactly Tamir Rice or Mike, or just anybody who's been killed. What was their past? Where was the boys will be boys model then?
Right.
I think I'm most disappointed that some of these letters to the editor are coming from older women who just that's just how it was, and that's just how it is, and that's just how it's gonna be.
Do you know if that's white women?
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
I mean, her name is Barbara. So.
I did read an article saying that 70% of white women still want him to be confirmed.
I don't know if it's 70% of white women across the board.
Yesterday.
I hope it's okay.
Yeah, I think it's probably 70% of white Republican women.
I hope that's the case.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Sorry,
I was
correct myself.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes.
Disappointed in the other white women.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm disappointed in the other white men.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I just, it's striking to me that the women that have come forward have gone on to be victims advocates, to work in psychology, to work in sexual assault trauma and domestic violence trauma. And then there's the men that just go on with their lives.
Yeah.
I would say more, but I can't curse on the radio.
Well, The FBI has been investigating people. Their hands have been tied in many cases wherever the White House can.
Is this really an investigation? Because it just seems like it's lacking.
It sounds like about half an investigation.
When do we riot?
Yeah.
Like, what's the tipping point?
I don't know.
They're not making this public either, I don't think.
Probably not.
Well,
So, am I not allowed to advocate for riots on the radio? I don't know.
That's up to you. No, I do have that question of, how do we find out what the FBI discovers?
Right.
If they were doing this the correct way, they would have postponed the committee vote, and that FBI report would have been presented to the committee. The nomination's no longer in the committee. There's no mechanism for like, hey, everybody in the Senate get together. We're going to have FBI story time. That's not a thing. Right. I don't understand how this works now.
Right.
But the vote got delayed by 1 week. So we're sitting here. This is Wednesday morning.
Right.
I expect Friday morning, Mitch McConnell to be standing on the floor of the U.S. Senate going, okay, that was your week. How do we know what the FBI found?
Right. That is definitely a valid question.
I mean, even if he is confirmed, we already have an illegitimate Supreme Court with Gorsuch's seat.
Right.
Over 1/5 of the Supreme Court justices went to the same prep school. Over 1/5 of the Supreme Court justices will also be people who've assaulted people. At least 1/5 of the, because Clarence Thomas is still there.
With Kavanaugh, it becomes 1/3 of the men.
Mm-hmm. So we're in a bad situation.
Right.
And it's probably just going to get worse.
This is America.
So like I said, it's Wednesday morning. We're still trying to figure out what Susan Collins thinks, what Lisa Murkowski thinks, what Jeff Flake thinks. I know Trump's comments, they've heard Trump's comments. They heard Kavanaugh's comments. We need for a very tiny group of swing voters in the U.S. Senate to come to their senses and admit, no, this guy is not right on many, many, many counts.
He wasn't right before any of these allegations came to light.
So, why are we even doing this? But
I think people are trying to whitewash George W. Bush, be like, oh, he's not as bad. He was fine because he's not Trump. But no, he's also legitimately terrible and is whipping votes for Kavanaugh.
Right. Yes, pushing for him very hard.
Just because he has slightly more decorum than the current president doesn't mean he's any less different. Garbage.
Yeah.
Right.
Or any different. Yeah.
Okay. So
never forget that
we'll be discussing whatever the hell happens this weekend on next week's podcast.
So tune in.
Between now and then, we got events. What's coming up?
Boy, howdy do we. Tonight we have a canvas in Dayton. Next Monday we have a phone bank. It's on Columbus Day, but that's not a real holiday. You just get off of work, so come phone bank.
And also another debate.
Yes.
In Cleveland.
Yes. But
Cleveland State.
I won't be there.
Yes, you will not be. But everybody tune in.
Yes. And then October 13th, I have 4 canvases in Dayton this month, and I have 4 phone banks in Columbus. So if you are in either of those cities, come hang out with me. Also October 10th, we have a wine and paint night fundraiser. It's actually, I'm really excited about this. So have some glasses of wine, paint a pro-choice painting, hang out with pro-choice cool people. Tickets are pretty limited for that, so go actually buy your tickets for that. There's so many other things. What am I missing?
So the wine and paint night is October 10th in Columbus. That same night, October 10th in Akron, your counterpart Hannah is going to be at Ray's Pub with a sex ed trivia and advocacy night. We are putting on in coordination with Planned Parenthood. So that should be a good chance. If you haven't met Hannah up there, our field organizer, who's still relatively new, she's terrific. The event's terrific. Ray's Pub, go to that. Then October 11th is the Vote Repro Health Happy Hour house party in Cincinnati.
You have to register for that to get to the location. You have to register to get the location for that, so we can protect the person who's hosting it.
Please register online.
Absolutely.
And then more phone banks, more field events, more canvas.
Knock doors. Win.
Go knock doors, and then look for us to be putting out some information on how you can get out the vote, doing GOTV work with us and coalition partners in that week before the election day.
Correct.
Voter registration date is October 9th.
Yes, deadline.
We're reminding everybody with whatever tactics we can drum up to make sure you register to vote before then. Confirm your voter registration.
Absolutely.
Gabe is making everybody mad.
Yeah. And then early voting starts like the next
October
day.
10th, yes.
Yeah. So you can cast your ballot at your Board of Elections office.
And absentee voting starts that day too.
Most counties, fill out your absentee ballot. So everybody get it done, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.